What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another breakdown video. So I haven't posted a breakdown in a very long time, and I'm going to give you guys the breakdown of the trade that we took today. But before we go over the breakdown, right, I'm going to explain to you guys a little bit what's been going on in the signal room, right? So these past couple of days, we can say the weeks as well, we've been experiencing a losing streak, right? So we're going to go over very quick to my trading results from November. Was a great month overall, but it was at the end of November where we started experiencing a little bit more losses than what we usually experience, right? So we can start all the way from November 1st, right? If you guys notice, we were in a very strong win streak, right? And obviously this win streak here, or this losing streak, it's all managed by proper risk management, right? So obviously 1, 2, 5 losses that I take is not going to blow up my account. It's not going to blow up any of my profits, due to the fact that, first of all, we've been having very high win streak the past couple weeks of last month, right? Every single month, or we can say from the start of October all the way to the end of November, we've been having a very positive win streak. My account has grown over 25+%, right? So I did make a big amount of withdrawals. Profits were coming in beautiful, exactly the way that we've been putting in the work, right? Now it was experiencing the end of November where we started experiencing, some type of losses, right? And the type of losses that we've been experiencing is due to the fact that we're coming into a holiday market, right? Now obviously we all understand the holiday markets, the market can be very, very choppy, right? And there's no problem trading the holiday markets. The only thing that you guys have to focus on is just trading the setup that actually follows your rules, right? So if I give you an example, if your rule says, hey, you're only going to be entering a trade if price action breaks structure, retest that structure, and it gives you confirmation, then you guys can enter a trade. If you guys find these type of setups, then there's no reason for you not to take a trade, right? Don't try to force trade, just trade exactly what your plan says, right? And that's exactly what we've been doing these past couple of days here in the holiday markets, right? We've been taking every single trade that makes sense, that obviously aligns with our plans, right? Now, if we experience, 2, 3 losses, it doesn't mean that we need to cut down our risk, right? That means that we just need to be very more patient with the market and just start executing, or pretty much start attacking the setup that actually makes sense or that follows our system, right? So the end or coming into the holidays, right, which was, we can say 2 weeks ago, right, going into, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, going into the Thanksgiving, the holidays obviously were pretty choppy, right? We did catch some good trades, but then we also experienced some losing trades, right? So we can say that the beginning from, let's say, it's not even a big deal here. The losses, yes, we do loses, right? But it's not really of a big deal. We can say from November 24, this is exactly where we started experiencing some type of losses, right? So you can see November 24, we had a negative R risk to reward, which was a negative 1% loss. We also have another negative percent loss here. We also have another negative loss percent here. So that's already 3 losses going into the end of November, right? And then some break even trade. But look at the losses compared to the wins. The wins, we have 5R, we have 2R, we have 3R. Look at the previous week, we have 3R, 2R, 3R, 4Rs, right? So obviously if you add up all the positive compared to the negative, it's nearly impossible for you guys to blow up your accounts, right? I'm still risking the same amount, 1%, right? In the signal room, I do recommend you guys to risk 0.5 to 1%. It really all depends on your risk tolerance. My risk tolerance, I always risk the same amount of money, which is 1%, right? Never going to be changing that. I'm always going to be risking 1%. Soon to be risking more than 1%. That is my goal coming into 2026, which is, risking a little bit more than what I usually do, right? It's not a problem at all. And then we're going to go into here the start of December. The start of this week, we did start off with a very nice trade, which was a 330 pip trade, which was caught on a Sunday night, which was a 1-3 risk to reward. December 1st, we also had another 1-1 risk to reward, which was a beautiful trade, but then we started having another loss. So we have 1%, 1%, and another 1%. So we were down 3% trade. We technically lost the position that we had earlier this week. And then yesterday we experienced a good trade, and then we got stopped out at break even when that trade did play out amazing, right? So let's go into the Telegram so I can show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Let's go all the way. Let's go a little bit higher. We're gonna go all the way into exactly where these losses happen. This probably happened like in the middle of November, like the ending of November. So you can see the Thanksgiving, this was some of the trade that we lost. So let's go by the first loss, which was November 24th. Or that was the last week, so let's fuck that one. Let's go to November 26th. You see, this is the beginning of the losses. Right, we took a loss here. We took another loss, which is pretty dope, which is pretty fine at the end of the day. Not a big deal. November 27th, this was Thanksgiving. The market was kind of closed. We took another trade here. This one kind of played out correctly. It was just out of break even. This was a Friday trade. We got stopped at a break even, but notice how the setup it ended up playing out exactly the way that we anticipated. Same thing happened here. We took a loss here. I believe we took a loss. This is November 28th. No, this is fine. This is another trade that we talked to win. And then this is the beginning of December, where the one that I was explaining to you guys. This is the first trade that we took this week. 330 pips, beautiful trade, right? 330, 1 to 3 risk to reward. And then earlier this week, that's exactly where we started experiencing the losses, right? So we have the second setup fail, which was 1%. We also had another negative 1%. So we're already down 2% there. We got stopped at a break even over here. And then we got, more trade that we lost, which was the last two trades. December 3rd, which was yesterday. Yesterday we took, let's go back into December 3rd. Yesterday we did take a good trade, which was the beginning trade. Like, this is exactly what I meant. You see, December 2nd, we took another negative 1 loss. And December 2nd, we took 2 losses, so we were down 2%. This is exactly what I told everyone. We started off the week a little bit choppy. We have taken 6 trades so far, 3 wins, 3 losses, etc. This is just me explaining the stop loss, right, to all of the VIP members, every single free member as well. This was the results at the beginning of this week. So we had 3R, that's 4, and that's 5, and then we end up taking 3 losses, right? Realistically, I was negative for the week, right? So this is not really 100% accurate, but this is just the trade charts, but obviously against with my risk. I was down over like negative 900, almost $1,000 I was down for the week, right? Because again, I did have a big win here, which they did make me a lot of money, but then I did technically lost all of my profits, right? Down negative 1% or whatever, right? It was pretty fine. We took a loss here December 3rd. I told everyone to re-enter again. And then this setup over here kind of made up the losses. So I was back at break even. I took a trade again. It was a buy limit. I took a stop loss. So we're down negative again. And then we took this trade over here, which they played out really nice. It was a negative. It played out for 50 pips. I got stopped out of break even, but this is the profit that I did end up closing out yesterday, right? The reason why I ended up closing out the profit was due to the fact of this trade over here. This first trade that I took was a negative 1% loss. So I lost like over like $500, $600. And then this trade over here, I did end up making over 1 or 2 risk to reward, which obviously made back my loss plus more in profit, right? I did end up closing out the day yesterday at $2,800 in profit, which is fine. And then again, this is one of the trade that we were talking about, right? Look at this. This was a buy limit that I sent out. The reason why I went to break even was due to the fact that there was news. But check this out. Setup played out exactly how I anticipated, right? So notice how these losses doesn't really affect anything, right? The losses is going to be part of the game. The only way that you guys are going to react to these losses is just how you simply manage your risk, right? If you're just over risking, just because you guys took a loss, you try to make back the loss, you guys are going to lose double and double and double, right? The whole point is just risking the same amount. You got to let the trade play out. Doesn't matter if it does 20, 40 pips and then it takes that a stop loss or break even, does not matter. You always have to let the trade play out. If you're risking 1%, your goal is to obviously close out profits at 2 or 3%. If you're closing anything under 2 or 3%, you're never going to be making your money back, right? And at that point, you're over there trading with emotion, reacting off emotion, and you just want to make back your money, right? Which is the wrong thing to do in trading, right? Now, this over here was the analysis that I sent out yesterday. I'm like, hey, we're going to reset this. We're going to look for a new setup. I told everyone to delete this limit. We came back last night during the London session. This was the breakdown of London session coming into today's market session, right? So the London session, I was looking for a sell, which I'm going to explain to you guys exactly why I was looking for that sell. This was the sell limit. I also had a buy limit pending, a little bit lower, which I still have pending. If it doesn't get active by the end of the week, I'm going to be deleting it. But this was the another buy limit that we had pending. But the main goal that we had was this sells. And then these sells over here was we can say the makeup of the sell limit that I have sent the previous days before, which was the sell limit right here. You see this? So this was the sell limit from yesterday, December 3rd. It was December 3rd. We did close out a pretty solid day. And then we're going into today's market session. This was the sell limit that was called out last night at 2:19 in the morning. 2:19 in the morning. We also called out the buy limit, whatever. This is coming into the morning. I woke up. Notice how every single take profit was smashed, over 190 pips. Closed out the day at $3,370 or $3,378 in profit with the sell limit that we took. Played out for 180 pips. So this is the first trade that we took today, 180 pips, which closed out at a 1 or 2 risk to reward. Beautiful. Now, we took another setup. This is where I told everyone, hey, I'm going to be looking for a buy limit, right? The buy limit played out exactly how I anticipated. All limit got active and we did play it out for 300 plus pips, which it gave us another 1 or 2.5 risk to reward. So we're already up 4.5 or 4.5 R for the day already, right? So notice how these two wins over here already made back the losses that I had at the beginning of the week. So I'm already good for the week, right? And then I told everyone, hey, secure some profits. This is basically me giving them another analysis, explaining the trade that we took the London session, the trade that we took the New York session, and another trade that I'm looking to scale in, which we did end up scaling another position. 42.10 was the active for us, and we end up hitting take profit one for 50 plus pips. Now, we did go break even at this trade over here due to the fact that we were rejecting all of these entire highs, which I'm going to explain to you guys in this breakdown. But we did get stopped out of break even, and then obviously, we closed out the day break even with that trade, closed out the day really profitable. I ended up closing out the day today over $5,600 in profits, what I made this morning. Beautiful way, made back all the losses from the beginning of this week. Now at this point over here, we're just trying to execute the market with just patient and just following our system, right? That's exactly how I'm trying to execute the market this next couple, well, not next couple days. Tomorrow is Friday, so it's the end of the week. So we're gonna see if obviously the market gives us a better opportunity. But this was the results today. We made over 500 plus pips and closing out the day at a 4 plus R risk to reward. Beautiful day, honestly. And now we're going to go into the breakdown. I'm going to explain to you guys exactly the 3 setup that I took this morning that made me over $5,600. So let's get right into this. All right, so let's start off with the sell position that we took this morning. I'm going to try to make this breakdown as quick as possible and just point out basically the important part and how exactly do I look for these setups, right? So going back into Telegram, we're going to go back into the message that I sent out last night during the London session, which I was looking for a sell position, right? So check this out. Here, this is the breakdown. Gold is showing a clean bearish structure right now on the 4-hour time frame. Price rejected previous structure and created new areas of resistance, right? We also had a missed limit near 4240 zone, which was a pretty supply zone, which price session failed to pretty much failed to activate for us, right? So check this out. This was the screenshot of last night. We had a missed limit, which was technically above the 4040, right? So before I explain to you guys the 4040, this was pretty much the breakdown, so you guys can stop the video and just pretty much look at the setup that I was anticipating to look for, which was technically a deeper pullback into this exact supply zone, which is around the 4230 areas, right? Now, going back into the setup that we took London session, right? We had a missed limit, we had a rejection of previous structure, which is an area of resistance, which is sitting at 4217. Right, so we're gonna go into the daily of this candle over here. We're gonna go to yesterday previous dailies, right, which is gonna be right over here. This was yesterday daily candle. Notice how price action, if we kind of turn this off, notice how price action rejected off the 4218, we can say 17 to 19 zone, right? Just look at the top of this wick and look at the wick from the previous day, which was Wednesday. Notice how we had a huge bullish move towards the upside, rejecting major high structures right over here, which is an area of resistance. This is an area of supply zone where obviously sellers were stepping into the market. Cool. Now, dropping down over here, this was daily highs. And if you guys look towards the left side, you guys can see that we also rejected this daily highs here on Monday. And if you guys look at previous structure, you guys can also see another area of resistance. Right now, if we zoom this out, we can clearly see that price action is having seller reaction of this huge bearish daily candle imbalance candle, right? A huge bearish imbalance that pretty much pushed the market to the downside. The market is just having a major pullback towards these zones, which is just simply magnets. Whenever price action has an imbalance move, the market always likes to retrace back towards these areas, which you guys can use it as, magnet, technically as a magnet, to pretty much retest, reject it, and if it does reject, maintain underneath, then obviously you guys can just continue the structure of the previous structure, which in this case, it was bearish. Price action pulled back, retested, we had a sell-off. Price action came back once again, and we also had another proper sell-off, right? Now, what I was looking more interested was how daily highs of yesterday, we pretty much rejected all of this. So we go back into the 4-hour time frame. This is exactly what I meant. We have a 4-hour fake breakout towards the upside. Break a structure right over here, but we came back to retest these exact supply zone, right? So notice how this over here was a fake bullish breakout towards the upside. If it was a valid bullish breakout, then obviously price action would have properly reject right here and start building up some bullish foundation so we can continue pushing market back towards the upside. But this was simply a fake breakout. We came back to retest 4240, which was an area of supply, previous supply zone. If you guys look towards the left side, you guys can also see it was an area of resistance, right? So we have resistance here, we have resistance here, and we also have resistance here as well. So this happened on Wednesday. After Wednesday, notice exactly what price action did. We broke back underneath this exact ranges, right? So very simple market structure. We had a fake breakout towards the upside. We rejected main supply zone, which is sitting right here. main supply zone sitting right here. Now, going back into the trade that I sent out yesterday as well, which was the sell limit 42.30, 42.33, I was anticipating for price action for this candle to kind of have a deeper pullback in towards these areas so that we can continue the sell. But obviously price action just missed it and it failed to continue pushing higher. But what really mattered of yesterday daily highs was simply how we closed. Now this is technically going into today's market, which is Thursday. You see this arrow right here, which is pretty much creating the new daily high, which is today's market. Now, going back into the Telegram, this is where I told everyone, hey, now that price action, price then broke under and closed under the previous daily structure, which is going to be confirmed as the break of structure, clearly showing us that buyers are losing strength above that zone and sellers are now taking control. So we had the missed limit, we had the rejection of previous structure / resistance. We can see that price action, this entire box over here is an area of resistance. Previous support, broke underneath, we got the pullback, resistance, sold off. We had the fake breakout towards the upside, price action came back inside the box. We had another pullback, another rejection towards these areas of resistance, as well rejection towards the EMA, already showing us that these levels over here, there's no buyers no more, right? The market is just indecisive since we're basically trading in the ranges, right? So idea, if price action breaks above, we're looking for buys. But if price action breaks underneath, we're also going to be looking for sell position. We're just waiting for simple breakouts, right? Now, we notice how the daily high, we formed this entire daily highs right over here. And the price action had a clean break of structure towards the downside. Look at this huge bearish candle. This is also off the 4-hour time frame. We close underneath, breaking underneath all of this entire structure. Cool. Now going back into the breakdown, on the 1-hour time frame stays on the same story. Price continued rejection from the previous structure and it had a clean break under the intraday structure ranges. We also have a 1-hour bearish fair value gap above these current zone, right? So now let's go back into the 1-hour time frame. Check this out. Once we look for the breakout, we also have, inside these candles over here, we have fair value gaps, right? And there's obviously 2 fair value gaps at this point. We had one right over here, which we can see that price action retest and perfectly rejected, right? But obviously there was never a good confirmation for us to enter the trade. And then we also had this other main bearish fair value gap, which is exactly where the bearish move started happening, right? So this over here was the main bearish move, right? This exact candle. So this was the candle that I was focusing on yesterday night during the London session. This exact bearish candle. And I was waiting for price action to have a deeper pullback. Since we did have a pullback here, already showing us that sellers are in control of this area, but obviously the goal here with our system is we need to tap into the areas of interest so that we can sell. This over here could have obviously been a good entry for breakout traders, right? Which is simply a break, retest, and sell. But for us, we like to wait for price action to come back and retest the main exact zone where price action had the initial move, where it started the initial move. So in this case over here, the initial move started in this exact candle, right? We had the rejection of major resistance and then we started selling off, right? Very simple structure. Once we started selling off, notice how we attempted sells here. Price came back, respected it, and now we just waited for all of these entire highs to get taken out, activate our trade, and then we continue selling the market. That's exactly what price action did, which was perfectly, right? This is just all games of probabilities. All you got to do is just simply match with the system. If your system says, hey, I'm looking for the major, the imbalance or this and that, you have to follow. In this case, this is exactly what we did this morning. We followed this one. We did not trade it from this zone over here because this is not where the initial move happened. The initial move happened right above here, right? And then we also have a nice 1-hour main fair value gap right over here. It's very simple. Now, price action came back. We set up our limit there, perfectly rejected, and that's exactly where we sold off. 190 pips, sitting at a 101.6 risk to reward, right? Our stop loss was a little bit lower, right? So we end up hitting over a 102 risk to reward. Now, from this case over here, if you guys kind of look towards the downside, we have daily lows, which was the daily low of today's market session, right? And if you guys kind of zoom out, you guys can clearly see that we're sitting above this exact demand zone, which price action has retested multiple times, right? So we retested once here and it flew towards the upside. Price action had another retracement, created another support, and then started flying back towards the upside. And then we came back over here, formed higher lows, started having to push towards the upside, but then we had a fake out. Price action comes back once again towards these exact lows. What do we form? another major support zone. Price action they rejected. This is exactly where buyers stepped in the morning. This is exactly where buyers started stepping in today's market session once we rejected this entire structure, right? Our setup would have definitely played out correctly, right? It would have played out 100% correctly if all of these entire levels over here would have gotten disrespected. But notice how all of this entire zones over here was being respected. If price action would have simply broke underneath, closed underneath, then that's exactly where our sell would have definitely played out very nice. And that's exactly where we can scale in, just look for another retest and then continue selling the market towards the downside. But that wasn't the case. Since we rejected the major daily structure, right, which is all of this major demand zone, and then price action started having the push towards the upside, already forming higher highs and higher lows from a lower time frame. The only reason why I was not looking for buys just yet was simply due to the fact that we were trading underneath these entire minor support levels, which is sitting around the 41.95 zone, right? But notice this. If you grab simply a trend line, you guys can place it from these lows all the way over here. And you guys can clearly see how price action was just tapping zone to zone. We had a push, we had a high. We had a higher low, we had our higher highs, we had a low, and then boom, we had to break a structure towards the upside. This bearish fair value gap over here got invalidated now. Since now price action broke above structure, we broke above these entire highs, right? So you see how these entire highs over here got broken. Cool. Now, since we respected, here's the analysis from the buys. We respected the main demand zone. Price action broke back above these entire support zone, started building a bullish foundation, and then we had the main break of structure above these highs over here. Okay, cool. Now we broke above. We're going to go down towards the lower time frame. What do we have? Look at this. We have a bullish fair value gap. After rejecting off trend line, rejecting off demand zone right here, minor demand, major demand, we had to break a structure. We're retesting, break a structure, major fair value gap. Cool. Now price action came back, rejected all of this. Notice how we rejected the fair value gap, the EMA, and also rejected the area of support, which is sitting at the 41.95. That's exactly what we looked for. Then we just waited for price action to have a bullish push towards the upside. And that's exactly what price action did. And this is exactly where we end up setting our buy limit. We set up our buy limit at the retest of this entire structure. So we retested this entire bullish fair value gap, which is this candle right here. And then we activate our limit. And then notice how price action perfectly respected it. And then started pushing the market towards the upside. Cool. Once we started pushing the market towards the upside, we build up another bullish fair value gap, which is sitting right here at the 42.10. You guys can see this nice bullish fair value gap. If you guys kind of turn this off, this is this entire bullish candle right here. Right? Now, we obviously respected this entire daily high, which is the area of resistance. This is where price action started having the retracement. Now we scaled in since we really rejected right here. All we need to do is just set up our buy limit. Now we already got the rejection. We just got all the confirmation. Now we're going to be entering the trade. We took the trade, activated our limit, and perfectly shot towards the upside, right? We ended up playing for 50 pips. I did secure majority of the profits since we were already rejecting off these highs over here. Again, it's just all of game of probabilities. We were rejecting these highs over here, and then price action started having a retracement towards the downside. Luckily, we got stopped out of break even, right? So this trade over here does not matter as long as we did secure some profits, right? Which is cool. But notice how all of these entire daily high continues getting rejected. So technically, it still shows us that the market is still indecisive. Look at these last past daily candles. There's no clean closure towards the upside or no clean closure towards the downside, which means that price action is once again inside this entire ranges. You see that? We're not breaking structure and we're not breaking underneath. We're now trading around these ranges over here. So this one over here, obviously there's no setup gaining form here. We're just going to wait to see if obviously we break above these highs over here for potential buys, or we start breaking underneath these lows over here for potential sells. But perfectly executed the market with all of the system, just following the 5 steps, right? Perfectly executed. We got the profit that we needed, recovered the losses from early this week, and now we're just floating with the market and just letting the market do its thing, which is very dope, very simple. So that is the breakdown of today, guys. I hope you guys understand. Hope you guys found this very interesting and how exactly do I execute the market every single day. I'll see you guys in the next one.